If playing action games in the 1980s taught me anything, it's that spending billions each year on new tanks and fighter jets is pointless. If you want to win the war, then all you really need to do is send in a couple of well-trained special forces soldiers with a gun and then watch them knock out the entire country's armed forces in about a half hour. That's certainly the case in Bloody Wolf, a fun little run-and-gun shooter by Data East released in both the arcades and on the TurboGrafx-16. It's not exactly the most revolutionary action game of the 16-bit era, but it has a memorable conclusion that is still worth talking about. Turn back now if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're going to spoil the story and ending of Bloody Wolf. This is Game Over, the early years. For as much as I'd like to tell you that Bloody Wolf is some deep and involved action game full of twists and turns and political intrigue, the truth is that it's every bit as shallow as you might expect. It's the story of Snake and Eagle, a couple of special forces soldiers who are on a mission to rescue the President of the United States of America from the crazed general who is dead set on taking over the free world. And if that wasn't bad enough, this mysterious general has also kidnapped your friends and colleagues at the SEALs, Green Berets, the Marine Corps, and the Air Force. It's your job to kill all the bad guys and save all the good guys, which is pretty much what you expect from this type of game. Our first order of business is to hit the ground and collect data. That way we know exactly what we're getting ourselves into. This involves rescuing hostages and then fighting a submarine. Yeah, that's right, we're barely even 5 minutes into this mission and they're already throwing subs at us. We narrowly escape to the forest where we jump over barbed wire fences and kill soldiers who are not standing in cover. No, seriously, why are they just standing around and not hiding behind stuff? Anyway, we end up fighting a mohawked punk with a shotgun who keeps jumping in and out of the water, which then leads to a tense moment where we're fighting through the tall brush, followed by a one-on-one battle with a helicopter. We win, let's move on. So Eagle got the intel that the president must be at the enemy's camp, so he makes his way onto the mountain and then towards a rickety old bridge. We'll get to that bridge in a moment, but first he needs to dodge rolling lumber and kill a bunch of soldiers. But don't think that's going to stop when he gets to the bridge, because that's where we meet up with the insanely powerful sniper. In fact, it may actually be too powerful. But don't worry, our hero doesn't mind, because it's off to the enemy's camp. This is where things start to get intense. Our Bloody Wolf finds the president is indeed in the enemy camp, but he's being protected by a guy with a predilection for throwing boomerangs. We eventually kill that guy, but things only get more intense from here. It's our job to escort the president out of the base, all while hordes of enemy soldiers swarm you all at once. In the arcade, this is where the game ends. We see everybody pile into the chopper and then fly off to safety. Here's what happens next. Now, let's pretend that none of that happened, because when Data East decided to bring the game to home consoles, they doubled the length and then added a new ending. Just like the arcade game, we rescue the president and get to the chopper. There's a problem. The chopper is full. Eagle decides to stay behind, but that means that he gets kidnapped by the enemy forces. The perspective now switches over to Snake, who goes on a rescue mission to save Eagle. He's also tasked with saving the rest of the hostages, which he'll find in a cave, in a house, and up a tree. Snake wades through waist-high water in order to kill a guy on a boat with a fun courtesy window. All this leads to the base's headquarters, a tough and heavily fortified zone where there's no way to escape and no place to hide. There's a fight every step of the way, which includes outside the base, inside the base, through laser traps, in a room with a tank, and through more laser traps. We eventually rescue Eagle, but something doesn't seem right. He's acting funny and immediately tries to kill Snake. The two men fight, and it's revealed that Eagle has been brainwashed by the general. We once again switch perspectives in order to infiltrate the general's inner circle. This plan works, but the general has a whole new set of moves. He magically teleports all around the rooms and seems to move so fast that there are multiple versions floating all around. It's crazy. Also crazy, the fact that Eagle still isn't safe once he kills the general. There's still soldiers coming after him, and there's only one thing left to do: shoot everybody. But even that doesn't work, because our hero finds himself trapped at the end of a path. Here's what happens next. So, we kill the general, and the Bloody Wolves get the vacation they earned. It's a happy ending, with a good sense of humor. Now, it's also worth noting that there's a slightly different version of the cinema that ends with a different button. Here's how that version plays out. The humor more in the console versions, but both endings are surprisingly solid considering how simple the game is. This is a substantially better ending than something like Commando or Mercs, which basically just said congratulations and rolled the credits. I like that Data East put at least a little time in developing these characters, and maybe that's the reason why this game has stuck with me longer than most run-and-gun shooters. Either way, I'm glad that Snake and Eagle were able to get the vacation they so desperately deserve. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Game Over, The Early Years. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes every Monday. Now here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite overhead run-and-gun shoot-'em-up? Yeah, I know that's specific, but there's so many great overhead shooters. I'm talking about Commando, Mercs, Twinkletail, Die Hard on the TurboGrafx, and even parts of Contra 3. Actually, let's not talk about those parts in Contra 3. I can't wait to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we have 2 more episodes of Electronic Gaming Monthly's Best and Worst Award Show going live this week, as well as reviews that were supposed to go up last week, but got delayed. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.